great basketball.
Defender for the Mavs, Jason Tatum.
We'll be covering pre and post game back on this channel. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Celtics Post Game Live. I am your host, Rob Hayte, and joined with me is my co-host Justin Lowe. Justin, the C's pick up all tight, but it was a weird win, right? 104 to 102. Celtics got the dub on the road in Minnesota, which is the third game of their 6-game road trip. Jaylen Brown was phenomenal tonight. He had 35 points, 10 rebounds, shot 12 of 24 from the field. Tatum's struggles continue. Tatum had 23 points, but it's the shooting that's really been the problem post All-Star break for JT. Tonight, Jason Tatum went 4 of 16 from the floor, 0 of 8 from behind the arc. Justin, he has not been able to knock down threes, and when that three ball isn't falling for JT, he has essentially been useless. He had five personal fouls, 2 turnovers, -3 plus minus, which is very unusual for him. It was the worst out of the 5 starters. However, the C's still got that win tonight. Your thoughts, your reactions, your takeaways, let me hear it, Justin.
Guess what, Rob? How I'm looking at it is the Celtics have now won 3 of their last 4 games. I'm looking at it as the Celtics found a way to win. I'm looking at it as every win counts in March and April. And I'm also looking at it as, Jaylen Brown came out, balled back-to-back games. He's been doing his thing. He looks great. I love these extra passes that he's doing, be very unselfish. I love how Tatum's impacting games in different ways, rebounding, making his free throws. I think that as for the shots, it's not that he's missing the shots, it's the shots that he's taking. I'm not okay with these contested sidestep threes anymore. It's actually getting a little bit frustrating. And I think it's Tatum is so good. Tatum is so good. How many times do I say this, Rob, on this show, how good Jason Tatum is? Jason Tatum is MVP level when he gets to the basket and he attacks. I did see a few drives here tonight that were very encouraging. We saw some great drives in Houston, but they're not falling. It doesn't feel right. Tatum's like a step off, it feels like. But I think it's really, really important that the Celtics weather this storm. You're going to go through rough patches. It is a long season. What's a little bit panicky about this one is because it's so late in the season. And the Celtics, I think we were just so accustomed to last year. The Celtics, this is when the Celtics were playing some of their best basketball, right? The Celtics were in rhythm. Tatum was playing at an MVP level. Remember, we mentioned this during our last podcast episode. The past few years, Jason Tatum has come out of the preseason slow, and then he progressively gets hot. Remember Jason Tatum in January and February? That was a thing. JT MVP in February was a thing. Now it's kind of the opposite. Jason Tatum started off as a top 3, and he wasn't 2 and he wasn't 3 MVP candidate the first 3 months of the season. He's kind of fallen off now. But again, you take what you can get when you're struggling, right? I told you today, I'm thinking if we win this game, I'm looking at it in a positive way. Yes, the Celtics lost 4 to 6 before this game, but now to me, Celtics have won 3 of their last 4.
Yeah, I mean, a win's a win. You said it best at this point of the season with how we're doing right now. You need to gut any type of win you possibly can out of these games, especially when you're on the road in a West Coast road trip. And I think some of the best part about what we got from tonight is the luxuries showed of having 2 superstars on a team. In a game in which Jason Tatum couldn't knock down a 3, wasn't really getting foul calls, couldn't get to the hoop, was struggling from the floor. JB stepped up. Jaylen Brown had, 15 fourth quarter points. He was knocking down his shots from beyond the arc. He was stretching the floor. He was being great in so many aspects, and I think that is the luxury of having Jaylen Brown show tonight, is that in a game in which Jason Tatum wasn't feeling it, he's going to step up and he's going to be that number 1. I think we went to Tatum down the stretch too much this game. I think when Brown is having a game like he is having, you have to feed the hot hand. And that's the luxury. That's the problem with having two superstars is that it's usually going to go to Tatum down the stretch, which I'm okay with, but I'd like to see Brown a little bit more integrated into that that less than 5 minute offense. I still think we're getting stagnant and we're not playing with pace in the fourth quarter. I think that needs to fix itself. Hopefully, we'll get right in the playoffs. But obviously, Ian is joining us in. Ian, you know the drill. Your thoughts, your reactions, your takeaways for tonight's C's dub.
It felt like the Celtics were trying to do everything in their power to lose this game, but overall, they did a great job. They ended up getting the W, and I mean that's all you can really ask for, right? That's what you need at this point in the season. It's just wins. I guess I can't complain too much on how we did it, but I mean, you would like to see the Celtics overall play better. But, I mean, you can't deny the fact that Jaylen Brown was the best player on the court tonight. He was absolutely incredible.
Yeah, hands down. Finn, welcome in. You know the drill. Your thoughts, your reactions, your takeaways for the C's dub tonight.
Oh, he's
Oh,
muted.
you're muted. Oh. Finn, you're muted.
We can't hear you.
That sucks because I can't read lips, but what he's saying must be good.
All right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
there you go.
Yep.
Okay. Sorry about that. Well, hey guys. As we were going into the fourth quarter, I was getting a little nervous. The past couple of games, it's been like a tough stretch recently, especially with choking leads late in the fourth quarter. Jason Tatum, it's been a continuous stretch of struggling to shoot the three-pointer, but Jaylen Brown tonight was really good, especially shooting that three ball. Marcus Smart didn't shoot it well. Jason Tatum didn't shoot it well. But Jaylen Brown was there when we needed him, and I think that's huge. I think I'm like late in the shot clock, they went to Jason Tatum too much, especially when Jaylen Brown had the hot hand. And I think that's something to watch in the next couple of games is, will Tatum improve his three-point shooting, or is he going to continue to be in this not so good streak?
Well, that's what I was talking to Justin about that. It was like, at what point, from what I've seen these past 10 games, it's really not so much that the Celtics are playing bad basketball. It's more of like a Jason Tatum and Marcus Smart are going through a slump. Smart still looks hurt. He looks hobbled. He really just kind of looks like lethargic out there. And Jason Tatum really is going through his normal October, November slump. It's just happening in March, which is kind of worrisome. So for me, I think the Celtics will break through eventually. It's just when. It is if they can do it in time, because if these guys don't break through until if the end of the first round comes and these guys are still lethargic out there and Tatum is still missing shots, he's still in that shooting slump, then I think we have problems. But if Tatum can get out of this slump, I'm guessing that Jason Tatum isn't going to be shooting this poorly from the floor for the rest of the season, including playoffs, right? I would be shocked if it happens. Then, I'd bet a lot of money that he gets out of this eventually. It's just really important when, because now you got Philly breathing down your neck for that 2 seed. Right. So not only do you have to potentially go into Milwaukee for 7 games, but you could potentially have to go into Philly for a 7th game, which really, really, really would be demoralizing, considering the fact that the Celtics held that 1 seed for essentially the entire season up until the All-Star break.
Yeah, and it's also like, do you guys look at who we're gonna play? I know it's tough because the seeding 1 through 3 is kind of getting close, but do you guys kind of look and see who's on the other side if the playoffs were to start today? I believe it'd be Miami. Do you think Boston looks at those types of things? Obviously they have to stay focused on themselves, but do you think their eyes kind of creep down to the bottom of the bracket and see who they might be going up against?
Maybe a little bit, but at the end of the day, you go back to last season and the Bucks and the Celtics both have their last game of the season, and the Celtics going to Memphis, and they have a statement game. They make it clear that they want the Nets in the first round. So, I mean, at the end of the day, the better team will win in the playoffs, and I know that's the Celtics mentality. So, whether it's maybe Brooklyn, Miami, Atlanta, maybe the Knicks slide back, I expect them to be ready, and I would not be surprised if they finish with the second seed, which would be interesting matchup against the Bucks in the ECF, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's like right now, I don't think the Celtics are looking at the standings. I don't think they're looking downwards. I think they're looking upwards. And rightfully so. I think the Celtics have to realize that there is still a window to creep up and snag that 1 seed on Milwaukee. It's closing in on us. But we still have a matchup in Milwaukee for the 1 seed. And if we can find a way to be a game back for that matchup, that is still very much in play. And I think the players know that. And I think the Celtics should be gunning for that 1 seed because, quite frankly, a matchup against Atlanta, Toronto, or Washington would be much easier than a matchup against Miami. I do think I do think that we are significantly better than the Heat. Like Finn said, the better team pretty much wins in the playoffs every single time. But I think a matchup against Miami could just be a series in which they prolong it. They got some good coaching. Jimmy Butler, he always shows up for the playoffs. They got depth. They defend 1 through 5 pretty well. They can rebound. They can shoot. Their guard play is kind of weak, so I think you don't have to worry about their guard so much. But I think when you look at the standings, the Heat are a team that you would prefer to dodge in the first round, not necessarily drop a seed to dodge them, but a team that it would be nice to not have to worry about them in that first round matchup, I think.
Definitely, because we all know for a fact that Miami always, always, always gives the Celtics problems in the playoffs. No matter what team it is, no matter what year it is, no matter who's on the other side, there's always problems with Miami in the playoffs. And if you can avoid it, that would be 100%, great for the Celtics. But the Celtics are always also probably of the mentality of, we'll play anybody. Like that was the mentality last year, was that it didn't matter who they played, they were going to play them and they were going to go in and win. So I have a feeling that's probably going to be their same mentality again. But at the same time, Miami is always a scary thought. But I don't know if that's 100% what they're concerned about right now. I think they're just concerned about getting everybody healthy, making sure that everything is, just okay before the playoffs starts, because that's going to be the most important thing for the Celtics team.
Yeah, for sure. And joining us is Zach from the Celtics fan page. Obviously, Zach, welcome in, first of all. Second of all, we got to know your thoughts, your takeaways, kind of where your head's at after this Celtics win tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I think last night, I think pretty much everyone was pressing a little bit of a panic, but not last night, 2 nights ago. After we lost to Houston, everyone was kind of pressing a bunch of panic buttons, and I was a little hesitant to, and I think they showed up today. And I think that was the biggest part, was getting a nice road win and getting to 2-1 on the road trip was a really big deal for me.
Yeah, I think another thing you have to look at is Celtics won this game without knocking down threes. They still took 40, which is like still really frustrating to me, because at some point you just have to stop. When they're not falling, you have to stop shooting them, especially Tatum and Smart. But I think it's nice to see a game in which you're not shooting particularly well from the floor. It's kind of a grit and grinded out win, a gut check type of win, a game in which you got a lot of pressure. You're on their home court, and you pull it out and you get the job done. I was telling Justin this. I think the Timberwolves may have lost this game more so than the C's have won it, but at the same time, it's like I said, a win's a win, right, Justin?
Yeah, a win's a win. And you know who came up big tonight in the end that we haven't mentioned yet?
Grant.
It's Team Starts with Jeans, Grant Williams. Grant Williams came up so big tonight in the end, and I was just really happy for him. Past few weeks have probably been really tough for him, getting the healthy scratches and then and then the missed free throws in Cleveland, and then he's just been in and out of the rotation. I mean, what was that game? Was that Portland where he came in, he played like one quarter, and he had like 8 threes. Like, dude was playing my career. This was just a really it was a really relieving scene to see Grant have, I guess, a solid game. He put the ball on the floor twice tonight. One of them was just horrible, and then the other one was he made a lucky layup. He spit, but we'll take it. But it was just really, like, in the end, it was nice to see Grant in there and Grant come up big for this team with the offensive rebound and then a jump ball steal. I thought that was just huge for Grant Williams and his, I guess, mentality. I'm sure he definitely needed that for like a morale booster for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you can't not root for Grant right now. We're at our best basketball, and Grant's playing well, right? I think that you need Grant Williams to be successful to make a finals run. I just think that's just the facts. And I thought he was solid tonight. I'd give Grant a solid B rating. I thought he hustled. I thought he didn't put the ball on the floor a lot. He was 0 for 3 from 3, but honestly, I'd rather him be 0 for 3 from 3 than turning the ball over. I like him shooting the ball. Thought he played some good defense. Did he knock down a free throw? I don't think he did, but but he was solid, right? Right. We can't complain with Grant playing solid.
Definitely his best game in a while, in a little bit. And I don't know, like, look, I know, like, we've been kind of making fun of him and having our jokes and our memes and all, but like you said, Rob, like, when it comes down to it in the playoffs, we're gonna need Grant Williams. We're gonna need that extra depth in the playoffs. So for him to have a game like this tonight on the road and get the win, that is absolutely huge. I mean, without that offensive rebound and then without that jump ball steal, I don't know, could the Celtics have won this game? Maybe, but it would have been a lot scarier if those two plays didn't happen for sure. So just a really, really good on his part, Ian.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was huge. I mean, like you say, we rip on Grant, but at the same time, he was the reason why the Celtics won Game 7 of the Bucks last year. His impact can't be understated when he's on. And when Grant Williams is playing good, the Celtics are even more dangerous than they already are. So I was happy to see Grant have a great game tonight. Finally, he created, it was something, an impact towards winning towards the end. I don't know if we're going to talk about the referees in this game, but I could see why Timberwolves fans were a little angry with the way that this game ended. But overall, I think Grant, he's going to be incredibly important to the Celtics' success if he can get it going and he can find his confidence back. So that's going to be the most important thing for him and the Celtics moving forward. And who knows, maybe he can find, some hot streak headed into the playoffs and he'll be, a legit guy the Celtics use off the bench.
I mean, I think that if you look at Grant Williams, he has to be a useful guy off the bench if they want to make that deep run, especially if you play the Bucks. Giannis is Giannis at the end of the day, and Grant can't be perfect on him, but Grant can slow him down. And we Joe has been going to Blake Griffin a little bit, but come playoff time, maybe Blake can play in the first round or the second round. But once you get to Giannis, you need Grant, and I think you can't keep Grant on the bench in the regular season. Obviously, it's been a tough run for him recently, but you need to get him engaged. You need to get him minutes, get his confidence back. So when his opportunity to have a really, really big role in the playoffs comes, he'll be ready. Because if you keep him on the bench right now, he's not going to be ready for playoffs.
Right.
Yeah, like you touched on, I think not just Grant, but also, I mean, Derek White playing, closing minutes down the stretch is going to be important for his confidence. And I'll just add on to the fact that Grant Williams pretty much directly led to 2 guys getting ejected tonight. So that's always fun.
What happened at the end of the game? I don't even know. They came out of a timeout and then 2 players got ejected. I don't even know what the hell was going on. What were they talking about?
I mean, I think they were.
I have no idea.
I think they were mad at Grant's jump ball because he hit it when it was going up.
Oh,
Yeah.
give me a break.
They're also mad at Joe being basically at the 3-point line to call a timeout.
Yeah, but they
Yeah, I
didn't even
did
give
see
him the
that.
timeout either, which was
Yeah,
stupid, but-
that's why I'm not like I don't have sympathy for Wolves fans because that should have been a timeout anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it should have been a timeout. They said he didn't have the ball when Grant clearly had the ball when he was running for the timeout. But I mean, I could see why the Wolves were angry at that jump ball. I mean, also it's kind of on Rudy Gobert for not paying attention anyway. But
Dude, it's if I couldn't hate
What do you
Rudy
mean?
Gobert any more
Facts.
than tonight, bro. And
bro,
like,
the karma Rudy Gobert got tonight was one of the all-time greatest moments I think
Rudy
I've ever seen.
Gobert moment. I
The
commented that on
instant
That's all I
karma
know.
was just perfect, absolutely perfect.
Dude, I texted Rob. I was like, dude, I thought I couldn't hate a player more than I hate Kyle Lowry. And then Rudy Gobert comes and does this. And then he's chirping with Jaylen Brown, which, like, I don't think Rudy Gobert really did that on purpose, like hit Jaylen Brown in the thing. But, like, I don't know. I feel like Rudy Gobert gets away with a lot of, like, cheap shots. And then he plays it off like he's like, oh, I don't even know what just happened.
No, this was the first time Rudy Gobert remembered he was 7 feet tall and he could actually dunk the ball instead of having to, not do anything offensively. He remembered he was a center for the first time, and that's why he got so excited and tried to talk shit. So I felt like that was pretty hilarious.
I hate to change the topic of the conversation, but I do want to talk about the Celtics' remaining schedule. I was just looking at this because I find it really interesting. They have only 3 games left against teams who are in the playoffs. That being Sacramento on the 21st of March, Milwaukee on the 30th of March, which that's like the biggest game of the season probably, and then Philly on the 4th of April, in which all 3 of these games are on the road. So the Celtics play outside of those games. They play the Blazers, the Jazz, the Pacers, the Spurs, the Wizards, the Jazz again, the Raptors twice, and the Hawks once. Like, those are all extremely winnable games. What do we have? We have 11 games left. You figure you lose maybe one. Let's cross our fingers and hope you lose one of those tough games against those good teams, and you take care of business that you lose once to a bad team. Like, they really got their opportunity to get back on track is here. They're playing some bad teams down the stretch.
I see what you're saying, Rob, but if we're being realistic, we're talking about the Celtics.
I know.
Playoff teams are their kryptonite, and the teams like it's funny. Like, when we look at the schedule and we see teams like Milwaukee and Sacramento and Philly coming up, we're like, oh, okay, like little playoff preview. And then when we see teams like the freaking Jazz creep in there and the Trailblazer and the Wizards, that's kind of when we're like, oh, here we go. Like,
that Wizards game's going to be a pain in the ass. I can already tell.
But I know what you're saying, Rob, and you're 100% right. Like, the Celtics have a great opportunity, and as much as they struggled as of late, they're still very much in this first seed race. And even if they don't get the first seed, as long as you go into the playoffs, and we've mentioned it on the podcast, and we've mentioned it here on the postgame show, as long as you go into the playoffs playing some of your best basketball, you're comfortable and you're building good habits, that's okay if you come out the 2 seed, as long as this carries into the playoffs. And the Celtics don't continue to build these bad habits. Like, if you're going to do it, get it out of the way now, March whatever, because a month from now, this absolutely cannot happen. I mean, it shouldn't be happening now. I'm not justifying it, but if we're going to play like crap now, let it be in March and not next April.
Yeah. I mean, the way I look at it is really like, the Sixers, what did the Sixers start off like 12-12? They had a really bad stretch of 25 first games. The Bucks had a really, really poor January or December and January. And then the Celtics are having a poor February and March. And it kind of feels like every team in the top 3 in the East has had a stretch of 20 games in which they've been kind of mediocre in. It just so happens the Celtics stretch is happening right before the playoffs, so it might get people to worry. But I still think we're the deepest team in the league. I still think we have the best roster. I still think we have the best duo in the league. I really do still think that we are the team to beat. I think Milwaukee's playing some good basketball, but I mean, Milwaukee's offense has been really poor all year long. They don't really have much outside of Giannis, and if Drew Holiday is knocking down shots, then they have that. But Middleton's been banged up. I mean, the Jay Crowder acquisition isn't going to give you much outside of catch and shoot opportunities. So, I still think this team is the best team in the league. I also do think I do want to talk about Robert Williams. I do think Robert Williams should be shut down until like the last 3 games to get his legs warm. I don't want him playing. He's too fragile. There's no point.
Adding on to, I mean, we talked about avoiding Miami in the first round and what that would mean. I think the Celtics probably have the easiest path to secure. I don't think they're going to get back up to 1, but they probably have the easiest path to locking up the 2 seed. I believe the Sixers are top 5 in hardest schedule remaining. They have, let me find it. They have us, obviously Milwaukee, the Nuggets, the Nets, the Suns, and the Bulls in their remaining schedule, and that's good for 4th hardest in the league. So there's obviously a path for us to lock in that 2 slot and hopefully avoid Miami in the first round.
But yeah, Finn,
I think
what do you think?
I think with the Robert Williams thing is I think it's a little nerve-wracking with Rob. I think I'm getting a little nervous with this whole situation. Because at first I was like, okay, this guy's gotta start playing. And then apparently now he's still gonna be out for another week or 2. And I don't know. I'm starting to get sick of the excuses. They can't just say shut him down necessarily for the rest of the year and then bring him into the playoffs. So I don't know. I'm getting a little nervous. I definitely think he should play a few games for the rest of the year towards the playoffs, because you do have to get his legs warm. You can't just throw him into a high level playoff matchup when he hasn't played. But also, I agree with you, Rob. He's got to get his feet warm.
Well, I do think that if the C's underperform in the playoffs and if they don't make that finals, or even say if they somehow drop that second round matchup, whether it's to Philly or it's to Cleveland or New York, whoever it may be, say if they drop that second round matchup, I think the move that gets made is Robert Williams. I think that he's young for sure, but you look at his short 4 year. What is he? 5th? This is his 5th season. He's 5th year, and all he has been is injury prone. And he has tremendous potential. When he's on the court, he's awesome. He's a great shot blocker, phenomenal rebounder. He spaces the floor well. He poses a great lob threat. I think we've underutilized him offensively this season, and I think that's you'd look at Joe, the different play style, but I do think the Celtics go a different direction for the future if this Robert Williams doesn't work out. I mean, if he gets hurt again, say come playoff time, or you gotta, the fact that he hasn't been able to consistently stay in the lineup for more than 20 games in a row for some time now is concerning. You can't have your starting center out every other game. It's just not going to work.
Well, I mean, look, Rob has definitely had a past with injuries, but I don't think the Celtics would ever move him. It's not like he has this horrible contract where he's sitting on the bench and he's wasting a lot of money. He honestly has one of the best deals in the league. And as it stands right now, I think the Celtics are in a really tough spot because I think there's two sides to this, because, he could come back right now and they could try to, connect the dots and have great team chemistry, but risk an injury. But then there's the idea of sitting him into the playoffs and, kind of hoping everything clicks, which is honestly what I think will happen, because it happened last year in the playoffs. Even though he wasn't healthy and he was hobbling on one leg, his impact was still there. And if we can have a healthy Rob for the playoffs, it's not like he doesn't know how to play with everyone. I expect chemistry to click. And, as long as he's not hobbling on one leg, which, I mean, if all goes well, he should be okay. I honestly think the Celtics will be fine, and they should rest him.
I mean, isn't the easiest solution just I guess ramping his minutes, where maybe he's playing, over the next 4 or 5 games, maybe 10, 15 minutes a night, and then you're slowly ramping him up as we get closer to the playoffs?
Yeah.
If they bring him back,
they've been doing that all season. It feels like you look at how much he's been playing this year, and you check the box score, and it's like, oh, Rob played 20 minutes this game, and then Rob played 25 this game, and it kind of just felt like he was getting back to that 30-minute threshold. And then what was it? His right hamstring it goes down. It's just like it's one thing after another with him, and I love him, and he's this tremendous talent. It's just when you can't stay on the court, when you can't be healthy, it's just the best ability is availability at the end of the day in the NBA, and Rob does not pose that availability aspect to his game.
Yeah.
True, but even if you go back to the finals last year, like Rob Williams on one leg when he did play, Celtics won the Robert Williams minutes, and I think that's something that Brad Stevens definitely values, and because of that, and just because of how valuable he is to the locker room, and on the court as well, I just do not see him being moved, and honestly, I see him probably playing around 15 to 20 minutes until we really need him to play 30 plus, which would be in the Eastern Conference Finals or hopefully the finals.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think we move Robert Williams. I think that's kind of a stretch. I feel like you need to give it at least a couple more years. I understand that his injury risk is huge, but I feel like you kind of have to go with it just because of like what Finn said. The contract is not a terrible contract. It's not like you had him signed to like a Rudy Gobert type contract. It's one of those things where it's just like I feel like you just kind of have to hope. You just kind of have to hope and pray that eventually he'll get lucky and stay healthy. Like, I mean, I feel like obviously this is kind of an extreme example, but Philly goes through the same thing with Joel Embiid. They know how talented Joel Embiid is, and sometimes he just runs out of gas in the playoffs. But Robert Williams showed in the playoffs, even on one leg, that he was a great piece, and the Celtics kind of needed him in the playoffs. So I'm not ready to give up on Robert Williams, even if the Celtics are like a second round exit this year. I feel like that would be kind of an extreme thing, but that's just my opinion on that.
Yeah, I don't think, and not just for this year, but I don't think Boston gets past Milwaukee, maybe even past Philly without Robert Williams. I don't see that happening. I'm going to be honest with you. So we need to get Rob right. It's gonna, I think, maybe these injuries, like this injury, maybe it's not as serious, but maybe it's just because it's Robert Williams. Maybe it's just because his name is Robert Williams III, and he's had this injury history throughout his 4 years. And the Celtics, they know they have yes, they're slumping right now, but they know in the end they're gonna have a serious chance to win a title, not compete for a title, but win a title. So they know they want to be 100%. I don't think we trade Rob, but it is obviously, something that pops up into your head when this guy keeps getting injured and he disappears for a while and then he comes back. But, the poor guy, I feel so damn bad for him because he plays makes such a difference when he's on the floor, and you can tell. Like that Houston game, I said to Zach, Jack, and Ian the other night, like that was a game where we missed Robert Williams. We tried to throw in Luke Cornett, we threw in Blake Griffin, we used every center we could in that game the other night except Muscala, and the Celtics still couldn't figure it out. Like that was a game where if we have Robert Williams, we win that game, just like we did in Boston when we played Houston. Robert Williams had one of his best games all year against the Houston Rockets. But for now, you just got to control what we can control and, just try to rack together some consistently good basketball. Like you said, Rob, going back to the schedule, Celtics have a really solid chance to finish this season out strong.
Yeah.
What the hell is up with everybody just saying yeah to my stuff? Like Jack did it to me the other
I'm agreeing
day.
with you.
Like what the hell?
I'm agreeing. I've already given my all right. So I've already given I can give more input on Robert Williams.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm looking at it and I'm seeing that the Boston Celtics have essentially struggled in defending over the past 20 games, and I look at that as because Robert Williams isn't on the court. What I see is a lack of ability to defend, not really necessarily the paint, but more so the perimeter. And I do think that contributes to Rob not playing, because when your anchor isn't back there, the guards are a little bit more jittery when they're guarding. They aren't so confident with the lack of back. When you have that backside help, you can overplay that three because if the guy gets by, you got Rob in the paint. So, I think Rob is the X factor here. I think he's one of two. I do think Jaylen Brown's the other X factor. But I think really, if we want to win the finals, if we want to beat Philly in the Bucks and whoever we may see out west, I really, like I said, the West doesn't really, no team poses a threat.
The Thunder.
Yeah, out west, it's still it's a toss up. But if we want to beat the Bucks in the Sixers, Rob's got to be healthy, and right now, getting Rob healthy, making sure he's right for the playoffs is so important because not only does that mean we get to play Robert Williams, it also slots Derek White back down to the bench, and having that White, Brogdon, Grant trio off the Grant trio off the bench really is so important. And having that 8-man rotation is great, and being able to tap into a little bit of Sam Hauser if you need some 3-point shooting, or sub in Blake if you need some gritty style of play, some passing. Blake's been a phenomenal passer, I think, at that big man spot for us. And I think having Robert Williams truly completes your team, and the C's need that, plain and simple, because Rob he's so good. He's so underrated, in my opinion, what he can do on both sides of the ball. You need that. And if we get him back, if we're healthy through the playoffs, I think we take anyone, and I think we can take them any team in 6 games. And I truly believe that if we're fully healthy.
Well, what's killing this team is the defensive rebounding, or the lack of defensive rebounding, closing out the defensive possessions. And, when we talk about these teams who've made some big runs, the Celtics have lost a lot of 14, 15-point leads in the last 2 weeks. That's due to the fact that teams are getting momentum and they're living off of second chance points and offensive rebounds. That's how the Minnesota Timberwolves got back into this game tonight. A lot of offensive rebounds, second chance opportunities, and that you miss a lot with Robert Williams.
For me, I look at both sides of the ball with the Time Lord. The offense, you don't have as much spacing because Rob's not a shooter, but the way he's able to swing the ball is honestly the most underrated aspect of his game, and that's something I definitely value. And then on the defensive end, when the Celtics have their death lineup out there of, the starters, the double big lineup, and they're switching everything on the perimeter, or they're playing, a team like the Denver Nuggets, and you put Horford on Jokic, and you have Rob floating around. I love that, and I think that's a formula for the Celtics when it comes to winning. If we have a healthy Rob Williams against the Milwaukee Bucks, and you can put a Grant or a Horford on Giannis, and then you have a healthy Robert Williams in the paint, which we definitely did not have last year against the Bucks. That's a huge difference and something that can easily turn around a series.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if we have this conversation if Brad makes a deal for a legitimate center at the deadline, or if Gallinari's healthy, maybe that adds something. But I mean, we talked about it 2 days ago where Al Horford's playing 43 minutes in a game against the Rockets, and that's just another casualty of Robert Williams being healthy. So I guess that's something you have to take into account of. But I pretty much agree with what everyone else said. When you have those 5 guys out there, there's no other team in the league that can probably compete with that.
Yeah, I mean, Rob, we know how huge Robert Williams' impact is on this team. And that's why it's so important for the Celtics to just focus on getting healthy. At this point, I don't even care about the first seed. I don't care about the second seed, third seed, whatever seed we're in. I just want them healthy because that's all I care about. So that's what I'm hoping for. I want Robert Williams healthy. I want, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Al Horford, Blake Griffin, Grant Williams. I want everybody, Marcus Smart, just healthy so we don't have to worry about anything. That's the biggest concern.
I also think another underrated aspect of this entire thing is that the Celtics aren't the only team that's going through this. If you look at the Bucks and Chris Middleton, as much as Robert Williams is a question mark, I think so is Chris Middleton. In the past, he's probably, he's known as a Celtic killer, but is he going to be able to drop 25 a game, or is it going to be more of like a 15 to 16 point type of thing? And that's enough to make a difference in the series, those 10 or 9 points or whatever. So, as much as we're questioning Rob Williams, I think the Bucks questioning Chris Middleton is also a huge factor into this playoffs series.
Yeah, I mean, I think we match up I mean, quite frankly, I look at the Bucks Celtics series last year. Obviously Bucks had no Middleton, but quite frankly, the C's were rocking without Smart and Rob for essentially like they were always playing a game in which if Smart was in, Rob was out. If Rob was in, Smart was out. All 7 games. I'm pretty sure that's literally how it went. They were rotating who was playing. So the C's weren't necessarily super healthy against the Bucks either. There's that narrative. If you listen to these, if you listen to ESPN when they talk about the Celtics versus Bucks series, sure Middleton was out, but the Bucks were rolling with the same lineup every game. They had that over the Celtics. The Celtics were making adjustments on the go in the playoff series, which in my opinion may be harder to manage. When you have your third and fourth best player out consistently, you got to manage that as to when you have your second or third best player out and you just know he's out. So I think there's that aspect. And I also look at the Celtics. I think they've gotten significantly better than the Bucks have gotten. I think the acquisition of Brogdon is huge, and I think Derek White is a much better player than he was last year. But I'm also looking at how Marcus Smart's playing, and I'm thinking to myself, like, at what point do you just, if I'm Joe Mazzulla, do you just say, all right, Marcus, you're not healthy. White's getting the minutes. Or at what point are you saying, like, how long do you let, because Smart's the longest tenured Celtics, how bad do you let this thing get before you're just like, all right, you know what, I'm rolling with White, or I'm rolling with Brogdon? Do you guys think you can do that, or is Smart just like too much the Boston Celtics that you just can't really do that?
I'll go first. Yeah, he is too much of the Boston Celtics, but that shouldn't matter when you're trying to win a championship and you have to put the team first. The whole part of being a Celtic is putting the team first, and he should know that better than anyone. And, we talked about it during the Rockets game where he was horrible too. And, it just gets to a point where you have so much depth that you need to play the guys who are playing well consistently.
I think come playoff time, we need Marcus Smart to be as healthy as he can be. And as we're talking about like the Celtics upcoming schedule and how there's like a lot of mid teams and teams that are not really in the playoff picture, I think Marcus Smart should not be playing every game. He tweaked his ankle once tonight, and that's something we can't have. So, he doesn't have to sit out every game, but like on back-to-backs, they should be very, very about what they do with him.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. As we know, Marcus Smart's the heart and soul of the Celtics. The Celtics are better when Marcus Smart is out there. Don't let the last few games since he's been back fool you about that. When Marcus Smart is there and he's healthy and he's playing at his level, he is one of the most important players on the Celtics team. So him being healthy is going to be the most important thing. And that tweak of an ankle injury tonight was kind of scary as well, because I think it was the same ankle that he hurt in Toronto. So, I hope that the Celtics are planning these games out, and I don't know how much seeding matters to them, but if it doesn't matter, I say, do what you do with Al Horford and Robert Williams with Marcus Smart, because I feel like you need to at this point just to make sure that he's healthy heading into the playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah, you also have the depth to do that, right? Like the other night when we saw Smart get ejected, who came in the game? It was Derek White or it was Malcolm Brogdon, whoever it was. Like either way, like that is absolutely so huge. I also think Marcus Smart is so much better when he's aggressive, similar to Jason Tatum. And Smart's been settling for threes as of late. And I just don't think that's his game. I don't like, those are the types of things where we talk about building good habits going into playoffs. That's not a good habit. I get it. A couple open threes here and there. That's different. But I love Smart when he's moving the ball and creating shots for others. I'm not going to sit here and hate on Smart, but, I think he could be better. And before the injury, we were talking about it on the podcast, Rob, Smart was kind of playing at an all-star level.
Yeah. He's gone from the best basketball of his career, I honestly think, to the worst. I think pre-Marcus Smart injury, he was running the offense so efficiently. He was hitting these passes that you were just like, what? You didn't know Smart could do that until this year. He was running the offense so well. He was he was only shooting right around 4 or 5 shots a game. I think that's when Smart's at his best, when he's scoring like 8 points on like 6 shots. 10 assists. Yeah, that's when he's at his best. And then he's gone from that to, I think his ankle has essentially made it so that he can't do that right now. He can't get to the rim, get to the hoop and play make. And quite frankly, I don't think that's going to change for the remainder of the season. I don't think his ankle magically gets better. I think it's going to come with some rest and some, if he can get some missed time, I think that will get him back there. Let's not forget, Derek White was playing averaging 19 points, 4 rebounds, and 6 assists before Smart came back. So if I'm Joe Mazzulla, and you guys can disagree with me here, but if the playoffs roll around and we're entering, we're closing a deal on a first round matchup, first round, and Smart still is spotty, maybe I'm not starting White just to have Smart be the starter, but White or Brogdon are getting the majority of those guard minutes over Smart. And I really, if this ankle doesn't, because I think that's what's holding him back, it's that ankle. If this ankle doesn't resolve itself, I think you have to go. You have to go to Derek White or Brogdon. They're just too good to not lean on it. And honestly, quite frankly, they can run the offense just as well as Smart can, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think someone asked him during the pregame, if he was what his ankle injury was like, and he was talking about how he can't move as well and how that's affected his defense. And I think that's a really big part, because if you look at it, that's where he makes his biggest impact, is on the defensive end. And honestly, if he's not playing defense at the level that we're used to seeing him play defense at, is he even a net positive on the floor?
Yeah.
Because if he can't move and he can't distribute, what is he doing out there besides just doing cardio? So I think those minutes just have to go to White and Brogdon at that point.
Especially when the Celtics are at their best, when those off-ball screens are getting set, when cuts are hitting, when you're driving to the hoop and kicking out for threes, that's when we're playing our best basketball, and getting out and running. When we slow down, we're kind of not as good. You see, that's kind of why we struggle in the fourth quarters, because our pace slows down. We go from the 7th ranked pace through 3 quarters to the 28th ranked pace in that fourth quarter. It's because you kind of go into conservative mode. So I think that's something you have to look at, but it's a big one. I think this matchup against Portland is going to be huge. It's another chance to get back on track. We're slowly we got a chance to slowly chip away at Milwaukee for that March 30th matchup. So we'll see that. But however, the C's pick up a 104-102 victory on the road against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Obviously, JB did his thing tonight, 35 points in 10 rebounds. C's take on the Portland Trail Blazers this Friday, March 15th. That is a late game, 10 o'clock. I believe we'll still be rocking post-game show. If you're still up, come in, tune in. We'll be live after the final buzzer there. But guys, before we close out the show, any final thoughts, takeaways, reactions, anything you want to say before we close out?
Yeah, just don't take this opponent for granted. And I know this is no Houston Rockets team. But it's a team you should beat, and a team you should beat handily. Remember, though, you beat this team last week. Celtics had, I think, deep lead in that game. They had a pretty solid lead in that game. Portland's going to want to come out on their home court and beat you. Get a little payback. Also, Portland's in the mix for this play-in tournament. There's plenty of time for them to make a push. Every game is big for Portland. So, just know that Damian Lillard, they're going to come out with some fire, and Celtics have to weather the storm. Just find a way to win. I don't care if it's by 2. I don't care if it's by 22 or 102. Just find a way to win.
For me, I have my eye on Jason Tatum. These last 2 games, he's significantly underperformed. I'm not even sure if he's going to play after that fall he took. I wouldn't be surprised if they rested him. But if he does play, I'm looking for an efficient game, a game where he gets going early and finishes shooting above 50%, and hopefully what is a comfortable win.
I'm not gonna. Well, actually, I am gonna harp on the Marcus stuff again, but obviously, Dame's one of the most prolific scorers in the league, so I'm gonna be watching how Marcus fares guarding Dame throughout the night, especially with that injury.
Yeah, I want to see the Celtics team as a whole kind of get back to remembering how to shoot. It was a rough shooting night tonight. I'm not gonna lie to you. Let's see, what was the final stat line? Yeah, they shot 40% from the field, which isn't terrible, I guess, but 30% from three. The last couple games, the 3-pointers have kind of been up and down and not as consistent as you want them to be. I'd kind of like to see them be a lot more consistent on that end of the ball. But I mean, that's a hope, obviously. But you just want to get the win, regardless.
Yeah, I'd like to see 48 minutes of really good, influent offense. I think we handled Dame pretty well, which kind of scares me because I feel like you're not going to handle Dame really well twice. Because we played them like a week and a half ago. So defensively, I'd say you gotta. I agree with Zach. You gotta really watch Dame. Offensively, I want to see us get to the paint first. Once you get into the paint, the threes will come. You can kick out. I really want to see us drive the ball. Quite frankly, I just want to win. That's really all I want. It's just find a way to win. Don't drop in the standings right now. We can't afford that. But yeah, that's all we got for you here, guys, tonight as the Seas pick up the close win on the road, 104-102. I'm Rob. Next to me to my left is Justin. To my right is Ian. Down below is Finn and Zach. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Until next